I've been curious about conspiracy theories my whole life. As soon as I popped out of my mom's grassy knoll, I wanted access to the secret knowledge that conspiracy theories promised.
So you believe in these sort of things?
Let's just say I want to believe.
I wanted to believe because conspiracy theories promise to deliver powerful insight. They promise to transform how you see for the better. But I was always disappointed in what I found. I remember watching the movie JFK in the theater, which was a place where people used to gather to exchange airborne particles. And I just remember coming out of it thinking, so did everybody kill JFK? Is this like Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express? Because that definitely wasn't real. I didn't know enough at the time to know why I didn't buy the JFK conspiracy theory or the moon landing or Roswell or chemtrails. I just couldn't do it. I think I just sensed they were too good. They were too much like movies. Nothing I had experienced about the real world showed me it was this interesting. Did I mention I grew up in Canada? To me, society didn't seem like a top-down hierarchy, like a company or a dictatorship. It seemed more like something else that was transforming the world around then. The internet. The world seemed like this massive, decentralized hive of activity where sure there was power and control, but there wasn't some great and powerful Oz behind the curtain pulling the levers.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain!
The machine was just too immense, too complicated. Too many other people had their own levers they could pull. Anyway, skip ahead from my youth to my middle age, and I wanted to know if this hunch I had as a kid was right. I launched a project about conspiracy theories, and I learned everything I could about them. And now, I know more than is necessary, really. I've done things I don't recommend. I've spent precious hours of my one and only life listening to Alex Jones speak and thinking about what he said.
And I can just tell you right now, almost every one of them is a pedophile. This is an army of Satanists. They want to drain energy off children.
I follow a bunch of QAnon people and read their claims about celebrities murdering children and drinking their adrenochrome, and I wonder if some essential truth is accidentally being expressed.
I mean, look at the Grateful Dead symbol. Your head is being broken open. They're putting electricity inside your skull. Why?
I have willingly given my attention to David Icke, who once claimed to be the son of God, then later pivoted to talking about a master race of shape-shifting reptilians. And people are still listening to him because he figured out COVID, and you'll never guess he's got a conspiracy theory.
There is no COVID-19. It doesn't exist.
I've looked at these perspectives with tolerance and in good faith, willing to believe. I mean, not these particular examples, but other ones. And I don't think conspiracy theorists are wrong all the time. Just like a stopped clock is right twice a day, Alex Jones has probably been right twice in his life. I mean, I've not seen it personally, but I'm assuming. Folks, I've dared to know. I've read the super secret hidden knowledge, and it's got a concerning number of typos. Some claims within conspiracy theories are true. Sometimes I even see the metaphorical point of some theories, but the ultimate inescapable conclusion is that conspiracy theories are constantly wrong. Despite conspiracy theories always being constantly wrong, there is something admirable about them, or at least their aspiration. They try to offer profound answers, and they faceplant at this. But the controversy they create is profound. Conspiracy theories themselves might not be that interesting, but the issue of conspiracy theories is very interesting. Conspiracy theories are actually important. They are central to this strange, metastasizing disease within our collective imagination right now.
The donut hole has a hole in its center. It is not a donut hole, but a smaller donut with its own hole. And our donut is not a hole at all.
I'm going to be exploring this realm for a while. If you'd like to join me on this journey, come back me on Patreon and help me make more videos like this. And subscribe to this channel and click the bell button too. No one knows what it does. It's one of life's eternal mysteries. And check out my feature-length documentary, This Is Not a Conspiracy Theory, if you'd like to know more about how we got into this mess and how we could go someplace better. You can get it for $5, and you can get the super special deluxe edition for $15. This concludes the flogging section of the video.
Houston, we have a problem.
This conspiracy theory thing has been a long time coming. They've been around right from the formation of the United States, but I think what's happening now has been building since the 1950s, and we clearly need to have this out. Conspiracy theories often frame everything as an epic conflict between good and evil, and I think this is an epic conflict, but not between good and evil. It's a battle of ideas. It's a cultural fight, and conspiracy theories are currently winning. They are pulling ahead in this race, and we need to catch up. Conspiracy theories must lose because they are a collective fantasy. The very premise of conspiracy theories is impossible. I mean, mostly. You can never say 100%, because monkeys might fly out my butt someday. In this video, I will present a series of exhibits, each one more mind-breaking than the last, that will prove my case beyond all reasonable doubt. This will begin with Exhibit A and culminate in Exhibit F. F as in fuck. I'll cover how conspiracy theories are not like real conspiracies. I'll reveal the profound truth within Bandersnatch. I will treat the 1998 Gwyneth Paltrow vehicle sliding doors with the deep reverence it deserves. And in the end, I will fix everything. And tonight, you can sleep the sleep of the just, knowing that you fought for the cause because you watched a video. This video is aimed at two groups of people: the conspiracy curious, which is what I was back in the 90s, and the non-believers, the people who don't believe any of this crap and just want to smear their rightness all over themselves like baked beans.
You know what? You keep your mind open. I'm just going to look for facts, evidence, dumb cop shit like that.
The overall point I'm going to make here is irrefutable. Now, I can definitely be wrong on some claims, and I will listen to criticism with an open mind. But sometimes you just know you're right. Evolution is real, climate change is happening, conspiracy theories are impossible. If there are victories to be had over me, they will be in the outer perimeter. You might take out some of my TIE fighters, but there is no thermal exhaust port in this Death Star. So kick back and relax while I zap the entire planet conspiracy theory with brain power. First off, what are conspiracy theories? A conspiracy theory is a claim of secret crimes by a hidden group, and this claim is driven by a community of amateurs. This is not the same thing as a conspiracy, which is just a criminal plot by a group of people. Conspiracy is a very common criminal charge. These happen all the time. There are some who claim the term conspiracy theory was created by the CIA in the 60s to undermine people who disagreed with the government's account of the JFK assassination. There are reasonable and well-intentioned people who repeat this claim.
Was in fact invented by the CIA to discredit people who disagreed with the Warren Commission's verdict on the Kennedy assassination.
Folks, you will be shocked to learn that the conspiracy theory about the origin of the term conspiracy theory is the opposite of true. The term conspiracy theory is at least a century old, and the CIA document that always gets cited doesn't even say what they claim it does. To get that meaning, you have to decode it. Remember that one? That's the trick where you can make anything mean whatever you want it to mean. See my last video for more on that. A conspiracy theory is not just a theory about a conspiracy. You don't just add words together to get their meaning. Like science fiction isn't just science plus fiction. If that were the case, Breaking Bad would be science fiction. It has a scientist lead character and it's fiction. But science fiction is about the future, or advanced technologies, or different worlds, or whatever. I don't want to get into it, nerds. Anyway, back to my definition. Again, a conspiracy theory is a claim of secret crimes by a hidden group, and this claim is driven by a community of amateurs. So there's an assertion that a nefarious act has been perpetrated by some shadowy lot, like the deep state, or celebrities, or the all-time #1 solid gold classic, the Jews, with their bagels and their lox and their challah and their latkes. They're coming to get you, and they brought snacks. An important thing here is these are alternative accounts. These narratives are driven by outsiders, by amateurs. If the story is driven by police and journalists and the government, that's the establishment, that's institutions, and that will be a very different type of story. Now, some of you out there are thinking, wait. The Russia investigation was a conspiracy theory, and it was driven by mainstream institutions. The Russia investigation was clearly not a conspiracy theory. I wrote a whole bit about this, and you can find a link in the description. For now, I'll just highlight one immense difference. Once Robert Mueller's results came in and there was a conclusion of no conspiracy, that was mostly it, and it went away. Conspiracy theories do not work this way. A poor, confused guy took the Pizzagate garbage he was reading on InfoWars seriously and went looking for victims and found a pizza restaurant. And yet, Pizzagate shuffles on like a stinking zombie, hunting for new brains to consume. If Q revealed himself and said all this Q stuff was a joke, you think QAnon would go away? No way. That'd be fake. Conspiracy theorists never give up, even after they clearly should. One last time, a conspiracy theory is a claim of secret crimes by a hidden group, and this claim is driven by a community of amateurs. After all these years looking at these things, this is my best understanding of what a conspiracy theory is. Let me add some nuance here because we love nuance nowadays, right? This is the age of nuance. There can be multiple valid definitions of conspiracy theories. These are complicated, evolving cultural entities. There also are multiple conspiracy theory subcultures which are quite different. Like there's the UFO subculture, which I don't buy, but I don't mess with them because they seem pretty groovy, man. And like everything else, there are levels of quality here. Not all conspiracy theories are stupid trash. If you believe the JFK assassination was a conspiracy, or you think Jeffrey Epstein was murdered, I disagree with both those arguments, but I don't think they're crazy. Whereas if you think the Earth is flat, it's time for some self-reflection. All right, definition asserted, nuance applied, now let's destroy. Exhibit A, no conspiracy theory has ever been proven true. But what about the lists on the internet? Have I not seen the listicles? Could Listverse be wrong? Are there 10 quirky facts about Tom Cruise wrong too? The people who make these stupid lists only care about getting some clicks, whereas I am purely altruistic and selfless and make videos for the betterment of all humanity and animals too, especially the baby elephants. I mean, look. What's wrong with all these lists is that they do not differentiate between conspiracies and conspiracy theories. These two terms often get used interchangeably, but they're actually two different things. A conspiracy is simply a criminal plot by a group of people. Anytime two knuckleheads team up to rob a liquor store, that's a conspiracy.
Great Caesar! Doth not Brutus bootless kneel? Speak hands for me!
There have been lots of real conspiracies. A group of Roman senators conspired to murder Julius Caesar. The assassination of Abraham Lincoln was a conspiracy. More recently, Elizabeth Holmes was indicted on conspiracy charges, and the NXIVM sex trafficking cult was a conspiracy.
ESP NXIVM is a methodology that allows people to optimize their behavior.
Here are 20 real conspiracies. These all happened. All the biggies that get cited in conspiracy theory lore are here. And here are 20 of the most popular conspiracy theories. This is only a fraction of them, but the major ones are here. If a conspiracy theory proves true, there should be a conspiracy theory first, then the conspiracy is revealed and proven. Let's connect the dots, shall we? Take a look at these two lists. There should be conspiracy theories that show up on the real conspiracies list. See any? Yeah, nothing. These lists don't connect because reality, fiction. Where are the conspiracy theories that turned out to be real conspiracies? They're in a parallel superior universe, that's where. In this universe, we're stuck with dog shit like QAnon. Exhibit B. Real conspiracies are not like conspiracy theories. A big conspiracy is just a large-scale crime that involves a bunch of people. They have a lot in common with ordinary small crimes, and they're part of the spectrum of criminal activity. Conspiracy theories should resemble actual conspiracies and other crimes. They should be on this spectrum. Over here at the right, they're the biggest and most complicated ones. But they're not on this spectrum. They're a different species. They're an alien life form. There's plenty of documentaries about real conspiracies and how they happen. 1971 is a documentary about COINTELPRO, an FBI program that surveilled, infiltrated, discredited, and disrupted political organizations. There's a new HBO documentary about the NXIVM sex cult called The Vow. NXIVM produced self-improvement seminars, but at the same time, it was a recruiting platform for an actual secret society where women were branded and forced into sexual slavery. From a distance, this might sound like QAnon, but it's actually just a very weird cult crime. There are victims, witnesses, evidence, and criminal charges.
You know, dumb cop shit like that.
And one of the most fascinating and extensive conspiracy docs is Wild Wild Country, which is an instant classic. If you haven't seen it, I really recommend it. And if you've already seen it, watch it again. All the elements of filmmaking really come together in this beautiful series. Wild Wild Country is about a commune in rural Oregon called Rajneeshpuram. As conflicts with the existing town of Antelope slowly escalate, the group becomes increasingly conspiratorial. They bus in homeless people to vote in a county election, who they then drug to keep them from potentially becoming violent. They plant salmonella all over the nearby town restaurants as a test to see if they could make enough people sick to prevent them from voting. There's a bunch of different poisonings, there's immigration fraud, and ultimately there's several planned or attempted assassinations.
The Rajneeshis came this close to murdering a presidential appointee, to executing Charles Turner. They came this close to murdering him.
But all these schemes produce good, hard evidence. They produce leaks, they produce witnesses, and ultimately, conspirators turn on each other because of internal conflicts or as a means to evade prosecution. And that's when things really go sideways and the whole thing crashes and explodes and sends evidence hurtling everywhere. So much of it that you can make an excellent 6-part docuseries about it. Large-scale conspiracies are like a massive game of chess, and as time passes, more squares are added to the board and more chess pieces are added to the game. Oh, and these chess pieces, they think for themselves. If at some point they feel like they're on the losing side, they'll switch and start playing for your opponent. Conspiracy theories are not part of this reality. They live in the upside down. Everything stays perfectly sealed up, nobody leaks, nobody flips, no good evidence surfaces, no victims tell their stories, nobody decides one day, hey, I'd like to be a hero, which they can do by just dashing off an email to the Washington Post. At best, conspiracy theories create a large pile of weak evidence. This was the approach of the popular 9/11 documentary Loose Change, which piled up loads of misinformation and little oddities.
That is one big pile of shit.
It might be crap, but it's a lot of crap.
But perhaps the most shocking evidence of all is that at the crash site itself, there is absolutely no trace of Flight 93. Nothing but a large crater.
Yep, that right there is an empty hole, folks. It's not visibly full of plane. If a conspiracy theory is real, why wouldn't the much maligned MSM report on it? Because they protect their tribe mates? Like they protected Hillary Clinton? Like they protected Harvey Weinstein? Like they protected Jeffrey Epstein? Like they protected Bill Cosby? Like they protected Ellen? Journalists love scandal and crime, and whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, they'll rip you in half and feast on your guts just the same. We should all be skeptical of huge, dramatic assertions.
What's it called?
Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. When somebody makes big, dramatic claims, you get to kick back and say, okay, bring on the big, dramatic evidence. You don't have to disprove them. I don't have to disprove Pizzagate. You have to prove it. Maybe start with an actual victim. Galileo Galilei was imprisoned for life for saying the sun is the center of our solar system. But ultimately, he won because the truth keeps being true forever. If something is objectively true, it will eventually win out because people die and it doesn't. Sometimes the bold claim is true, like Galileo's was, but this is the exception to the rule. Not many of us are Galileo. Fantastical claims are generally fantasies. Conspiracies are just crimes, and the actions and cover-ups from conspiracy theories should just be crimes too. But they're not like crimes, they're like movies. The brilliant, unerring villains of conspiracy theories are like movie villains.
I intend to change the face of history.
By destroying the world?
By creating a world. A new and beautiful world beneath the sea.
And the dramatic, orderly structure of these stories isn't like Watergate, it's like the Da Vinci Code.
The plan went off like clockwork. The Templars were all but exterminated. The date was October 13th, 1307, a Friday.
Friday the 13th.
Let's talk about murders. Murders in general.
We're fascinated by difficult-to-solve cases, but most crimes aren't mysterious. Josiah Thompson is a private investigator who wrote a book called 6 Seconds in Dallas, and in its day, it was very good. It's one of the best pro-conspiracy theory books. This guy is no slouch, and he said this about crimes.
There's never a big problem about what happened. That is, until you get to the Kennedy case.
But my spidey sense tells me that maybe the guy who worked at the book depository, which is where all 3 of the bullets came from, it's even been simulated in 3D, the guy who witnesses say brought what looked like a rifle to work that day, the guy who disappeared after the shooting, where did he go? He's halfway across town, shooting and killing a cop, then punching another cop in a theater and pulling a gun and trying to shoot him. And oh, by the way, this is the same guy who tried to assassinate someone else months earlier. And that gun they found in the sniper's nest, this guy bought it, and it has his fingerprints on it. Oh, and here's a photo of him with that gun. In case you think that's fake, like was shown in the film JFK, here's another photo of him with that gun. Also fake. Here's one more. Think they're all fake? Again, simulated in 3D, the pose is stable, all the shadows are exactly correct. I mean, I don't know, maybe it was him? Thompson thinks this case is somehow different from all the rest, but what's really different is him, is his beliefs. He wants to believe something grand happened, something ineffable. He wants to believe this is some Moby Dick of Western rationality.
Oh, ye whale! Damn it, whale!
He doesn't want to catch this whale, because then it's just a fucking dead whale. And what kind of ending is that? If JFK was an ordinary person and we were all just looking at the evidence, this guy's guilty and forgotten. It's like Chris Rock once said about OJ.
If OJ drove a bus, he wouldn't even be OJ, he'd be Orenthal, the bus driving murderer.
I know there's nothing bold or edgy about saying these boring old men were right, but maybe people like this were more decent than you think. And maybe American institutions aren't as rotten as you think. That's the red, white, and blue pill. Exhibit C.
Jenga Deathmatch.
Jenga Deathmatch. Jenga Deathmatch. Jenga Deathmatch.
Big conspiracies are complicated crimes. They involve a lot of people. They require a lot of actions. They produce a lot of evidence. And therefore, they have a lot of vulnerabilities. Just like a big, complicated machine with lots of moving parts is prone to failure, so is a big conspiracy. A conspiracy is kind of like a game I'll call Jenga Deathmatch. In this game, every action the conspiracy requires adds a block to the tower. So you add a bunch of blocks with all the tasks required to kill the president, or shoot that fake moon landing, or do all that pedophilia with your celeb pals. During all this, people are seeing you, cameras are recording you, banking systems are logging you, you're scattering bits of data behind you like a cloud of dust, and you're even leaving behind your DNA, a unique identifier that's equivalent to just dropping your license. And every conspirator you involve, they start adding blocks too. And I bet they're not as careful as you think they are. And the cover-up is a bunch more blocks. You gotta forge documents, plant evidence, destroy evidence, create cover stories, coerce, bribe, intimidate, blackmail. And if it comes down to it, you gotta murder somebody. And that's a whole bunch of blocks you just added. The end result is a huge tower, but it's already got flaws. It's already missing blocks because not everything can be perfect. And it might seem stable, but it's actually fragile. And if somebody pulls the wrong block, the whole thing collapses, and hopefully it makes for a good docuseries. And you can never be sure which block might trigger a collapse. I'll use a fictional example here because I think it demonstrates how this really works. Capricorn 1 is about a fake Mars landing, and it was inspired by the "we never went to the moon" conspiracy theories. In this scene, this technician doesn't know anything about a conspiracy. He only knows that a signal is arriving too quickly.
The television signals are coming in ahead of the spacecraft signals. It's like they're closer or something, but much closer.
No, that's not possible. There must be some malfunction in your equipment.
So he has this odd little piece of the puzzle that doesn't fit. That's all he's got. And people are endlessly curious about odd little things that don't fit. That's why we like puzzles. So he blabs to his friend, who just happens to be a journalist. Then the journalist starts pulling blocks too, and then all of a sudden, it's game over and you lose. And yes, that is OJ. Speaking of murder, it's really difficult to get away with crimes even when you're alone and you're careful about leaving behind evidence. You don't even know what ultimately will be evidence. The Golden State murderer was recently convicted after a 40-year search. He had no collaborator, he committed his crimes at night in private homes in an era with no security cameras. He was a cop and he knew how to not leave evidence. And even he didn't get away with it because they had his DNA and they tracked him down through basically 23andMe. Good luck factoring the technology from 4 decades in the future into your plans. Even when you commit crimes on your own, out of sight, in the dead of night, it's still really hard to get away with it. This guy added very few blocks to his tower and it proved stable for over 4 decades. But that DNA block was bearing a lot of weight, and when you pull it, it's all over, and thankfully, the docuseries is pretty good. Exhibit D, Sliding Doors.
Holy Mary, Mother of God.
All right, folks, prepare your normie minds for shattering. We are about to go through the looking glass. If you've got a bong, hit it. If you've got an adult diaper, strap it on. Because your bladder might slacken in dumbfounded awe. This trip will take a while, so get comfy, and it's sometimes going to seem like this doesn't relate, but stick with me. Trust my plan. We all understand that big changes create a very different future. Like something big and great can happen. Biff Tannen can get 50 years of future sports scores, make a fortune gambling, and build an empire. And something big and awful can happen. At the start of the road, there's probably a nuclear war, and after that, everything is much worse than cats. And we also understand that big changes are not predictable. You could do something that seems big and great, but it turns out to be big and really, really bad. In Stephen King's 11/22/63, a guy finds a time travel portal in a closet in a diner. Which isn't totally realistic. I've generally found they're in the bathroom at Arby's. Anyway, he stops the assassination of JFK, every conspiracy theorist's dream, but after this, a hard-right segregationist gets elected, and we have a nuclear war, and then everything is much worse than cats. And in Alan Moore's Watchmen, superheroes are introduced into American history in 1938, and this event eventually means the US wins the Vietnam War, and the Watergate break-in is never exposed.
What happened to the American dream? It came true. You're looking at it.
By the time of Damon Lindelof's excellent sequel series, we have an entirely different America that in 2019 seemed far worse than the present, but now I'm kind of like, I don't know, seems like more of a draw. We all get that when you drop a big boulder into the pond of human history, you get a big splash and the future is transformed. Maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. Less of us, although still plenty, understand that small events can do the exact same thing. You can drop a pebble in the pond of human history and get a huge splash. Let me illustrate with Gwyneth Paltrow.
What the fuck are you doing to people?
Before she was selling you jade eggs for your vagina, Gwyneth Paltrow was an actress for movies, for the theater, and her bestest movie is called Sliding Doors. In Sliding Doors, the narrative splits into 2 timelines, one where my girlfriend catches a train and one where she doesn't. In the one where she catches the train, she has mousy brown hair and is the Gwyneth Paltrow version of plain, and it's just a relentless clusterfuck with her boyfriend who is obviously cheating on her, and she's super gullible and dumb about it, and it's fucking tedious. In the other timeline, she catches her cheating boyfriend and moves on and gets phenomenal 90s hair and wears belly shirts and has montages and gets it on PG-13 style with a funny Scottish divorcee who's caring for his ailing mum. I feel like I'm really selling this movie. So this moment, the sliding doors of our title, is a tiny moment, seemingly irrelevant. And yet whether she catches the train or doesn't sets her off on entirely different plots. Yes, you're still watching a video about conspiracy theories. Trust my plan. We've all had countless sliding doors moments. If you skipped that party that night because watching every season of Ozark in one go seemed necessary,
Oh my God, I need help.
you'd never have met your boyfriend, who became your husband, who fathered your children. Change this moment and your children wouldn't exist. You would have different children, maybe better children.
Yum, yum.
COVID demonstrates this on a global scale. Our best understanding right now is that COVID originated in bats, then transferred to a pangolin, which is a scaly anteater, then to a human. It's pretty similar to the movie Contagion.
Somewhere in the world, the wrong pig met up with the wrong bat.
The wrong bat met the wrong pangolin, met the wrong person, and now everything is much worse than cats. It's not just big events that transform the future, it's small events too. This seems to be a deeply true part of nature. There's a mathematical idea like this in the field of chaos theory called the butterfly effect, where in theory, the flap of a butterfly's wings in Brazil could set off a tornado in Texas. So tiny events can snowball and go exponential and become immense. This idea inspired a movie called The Butterfly Effect, where Ashton Kutcher can time travel by reading his old journals. Which I guess could happen, but again, Arby's bathroom people. He then changes various traumatic events.
In the next 30 seconds, you're gonna open up one of two doors. The first door will forever traumatize your own flesh and blood.
And completely alters the present.
What the fuck is this?
In ways that are much worse than cats. But the film's comprehension of the work of Edward Lorenz is not as excellent as one would expect. And the actions Kelso takes in his time travels are actually big, so of course they have big effects. They should have called this movie The Blue Whale Effect, am I right? Because the blue whale is the largest animal. Forget it, I guess chaos theory humor's not your thing. For real chaos mathematics, better to stick with Sliding Doors, the greatest movie of all time. People who are attracted to conspiracy theories seem disturbed by this idea that small events can change the course of history. That a below-average misfit like Lee Harvey Oswald can kill a president doesn't seem to balance. Long before this, many people couldn't believe that John Wilkes Booth could assassinate Abraham Lincoln. What's up with these assassins and their 3 names? Small events can irreversibly change the course of history, just like large ones can. So even if you somehow prevent big disasters from striking, you never know what tiny event might go exponential and start a revolution. This happened in the Middle East when a street vendor set himself on fire to protest local corruption, which triggered the Arab Spring, which engulfed the entire region and produced an unpredictable cascade of events that transformed the region. All this is to say that predicting and controlling the future, as you need to for any large-scale conspiracy, is at best incredibly difficult and more likely impossible. You never know what tiny event might become a gigantic problem and explode your nefarious plans. You never know what tiny domino might do this.
Boom.
But we're just getting started here. It gets so much worse. Exhibit E. There is no Exhibit E. Exhibit F, as in an infinity of big bangs. I know what you want now. Mathematical concepts weren't enough. You want me to really bring this home with some actual math, right? Hey, who wants some math? Let's do some math.
Let's do math, let's do math. Come on, everybody, let's do some math. Let's do math, let's do math. Come on, everybody, let's do some math. Hey!
Fine, I'll sugar the pill and talk about Black Mirror, okay? Bandersnatch is an excellent Black Mirror episode, maybe on the level of Sliding Doors, which I guess wasn't a Black Mirror episode, but I'm too lazy to restructure this sentence. Bandersnatch was inspired by the Choose Your Own Adventure books of the 1980s. At certain points in the story, you make a decision, and this chooses the next branch of the narrative.
You decide what your character does. Like a game.
The result doesn't feel like a game really though, because, firstly, your Roku's not an Xbox, and secondly, the interactions are infrequent and very limited. That's because the producers can't create that many possibilities because each split in the narrative requires a whole nother script and yet more production time. Now, what's not obvious to us humans is that once you start multiplying and splitting branches, these numbers very quickly become mind-boggling. Let's walk through this. Here's that math, folks. Split the storyline once, and you've got 2 story branches. You with me? Split these storylines, and you've got 4. Split again, and you've got 8. So this is just simple doubling. There's nothing fancy happening here, and yet if you keep doing this, things go entirely coconuts. If you split the storylines 12 times, you get 4,096 plot lines. And if you split them 60 times, that's just 1 choice per day for 2 months. That's over 1 quintillion. That's a 1 with 18 zeros after it. That's an insane mumbo jumbo number. Jeff Bezos has less than 0.00000002 of this amount in dollars. This is exponential growth. It starts out slow, then it gets faster and faster and faster until the numbers are basically infinite. Exponential growth is something we don't intuitively understand. We need to learn about it.
That was 13 dominoes. If I had 29 dominoes, the The last domino would be as tall as the Empire State Building.
Let's connect the dots now, people. This is the way possibilities multiply in the real world. So if you're Lee Harvey Oswald and you murder the president, this act produces this endless branching of possibilities that starts out slow and then goes entirely coconuts. Way out there on those branches, there's going to be completely unimaginable things. Like 40 years later, a guy is going to graphically recreate the path of those bullets on a computer, whatever that is, and prove that they definitely came from the 6th floor window of the book depository. But it's even worse than this. Bandersnatch only gives you 2 choices. In reality, you can do anything you want. Like right here, instead of visiting Dr. Haynes or following Colin, you could just go home, you could keep talking to your dad, you could roll around on the sidewalk, you could dance like no one's watching, you could, I don't know, I'm not that imaginative. Each action you take creates this multiplying of possibilities from this moment forward. The future is unpredictable, and the farther out you go, the more unpredictabler it is. What does this have to do with conspiracy theories? A grand conspiracy has to predict the future. It needs to initiate effective actions. It needs to anticipate where all this is going, and it needs to foresee problems. You have to be ready for all these possibilities, and you can't be. Like this guy said in the HBO docuseries McMillions.
Like I've always said my whole life, you can get away with something over and over and over. You only gotta be caught once. You get caught once, you're done.
Somewhere way out on these branches, there are gonna be catastrophic problems nobody can imagine. Human minds can't compute this number of possibilities, nor do we have the technology to compute this sort of thing. Artificial intelligence is just in the most primitive stages of doing this. The game of Go famously has more potential games than atoms in the universe. It has even more possibilities than chess, which AI already beat us at a while ago. AlphaGo was the first AI system to beat the best human Go player. How did it do this? One of the things it does is called a tree search.
And then third component is the tree search, where it would look through different variations of the game and try to figure out what will happen in the future.
So it plays out entire sets of branches, these billions upon billions of games, then it chooses the path that has the highest probability of leading to a victory. This guy managed to win 1 game out of 5 against AlphaGo, and that single victory is probably one of the last times a human will beat an AI. Maybe AI will someday be able to help us plan and predict our future. Maybe someday that's kind of the premise of season 3 of Westworld. There's a corporate-owned mega AI called Rehoboam that manages society and sets everybody on the appropriate life path. This circle shows where everything is going according to plan, and the spikes are disorder. You can probably imagine that some company's AI managing society on its own doesn't work out great. Anyway, maybe someday AI really can help us with this, but right now, we just beat a guy at a fucking board game, okay? So get comfy, bring an audiobook, it's gonna be a bit. A game of Go compared to the possibilities of human society is like a grain of sand on the beach compared to, I don't know, everything that's ever happened everywhere. This is at the core of why immense conspiracies can't work. Our potential futures are infinite, but the future turns out one way. Good luck finding it. It's not a needle in a haystack, it's a quark in the universe. And each future scenario you prepare for costs you time and money. You can only place so many bets until you go broke. These odds are so infinitesimal, it's like betting on a roulette wheel the size of the planet.
Shit, you lost.
If George Soros actually did everything he's accused of, he'd be broke in 3 seconds. This globalized, networked world that we inhabit is just so much bigger than we think it is, and so entirely beyond any conceivable intelligence. Our animal minds want things to be small. We want a small cast of characters, we want clear opponents to defeat for finite resources, we want simple causality. But that is the world of our past, not our present, and not our future. Each choice we make creates a big bang of possibilities. Most of the time, what happens next is predictable, but once in a while, it's not. You make a wrong turn and you meet your wife. You get a text message and you crash your car. Someone decides that the president's motorcade goes past the book depository and the president gets murdered. These big bangs of possibilities that surround us are invisible. We don't see all the paths not taken. We don't see the possibilities branching out before us. We only see the path we're on. We think we're in an ordinary movie, but we're actually in the infinite version of Bandersnatch. This is a vital thing to remember when you hear people making predictions about our future. Nobody knows what's coming. Not when it comes to society. We can make immense scale predictions about our world and the universe. We have excellent reasons to think Earth will continue warming, but we can't know what our lives will be like in this hotter future. Whoever your favorite thought leader is, they don't know what's coming. Not Elon Musk, not Elizabeth Warren, not Eric Weinstein, not Thomas Piketty, not Naomi Klein, not Jordan Peterson, not Barack Obama, not Yuval Noah Harari, and certainly not Q or Donald Trump. These are the flat earthers of politics. I believe this is a certainty. Nobody is in charge. Not George Soros, not the Rothschilds, not Bill Gates, not Biden, not Trump, not Putin, and certainly not the fucking Jews. I feel sorry for people who are confused and desperate and hurt enough to believe something like this. Conspiracy theories are always premised on some group having the plan. Nobody has the plan. There is no plan. And we shouldn't be frightened by this. We should be empowered by it because it is the truth. And if we understand this, we'll be better able to shape the future we want by taking smaller steps and adapting along the journey. All right, this is the part of the video where I, a person who makes videos on the internet, fixes everything. To the people who are into conspiracy theories, my respect to you on getting this far in the video, and I get where you're coming from. I share your interest. I wish conspiracy theories did what they promise. I wish they revealed deep truths about our world. I wish we could just beat the bad guys and everything would be better. But in our heart of hearts, did we ever really believe it would be this easy? And I especially get the appeal right now. We seem to be in some sort of profound civilizational transition. It's a scary time, and our media sphere is the Wild West. We can all choose to believe whatever feels best to us. My advice for anybody who's not quite ready to leave the conspiracy theory world behind is to try zooming in. Conspiracy theories tend to be sweeping and abstract, and they often don't get into how their theories actually work. Get into true crime. Watch some of the documentaries I've featured. They show how actual conspiracies spiral out of control, splinter, spring leaks, and ultimately implode. You can find links below, and if anyone has recommendations, leave those in the comments. Okay, so what do we do? You might find this a bit odd after all the trashing and ridicule that came before this, but I am now going to strike a conciliatory tone. I lure you in with the Gwyneth Paltrow vajayjay jokes, then I clobber you with empathy. Like I said, this video is aimed primarily at the conspiracy curious and non-believers. I don't expect to reach the true believers. They probably think I'm a lizard person. Why am I not trying to reach the true believers? Because I have no credibility with them. But you know who might? You. If your friends or family or even acquaintances have gotten into conspiracy theories, you can have an influence, especially if those people haven't completely drunk the Kool-Aid yet. So my plan to reach the true believers goes through you. Here's how I think we should deal with people who believe in conspiracy theories. How deep are they in? The first thing to do is gauge how deep someone is in. If someone is pilled, if they're a true believer and they're really into this stuff, the best we can do is nudge them here and there and not expect much at all. I think we should consider this like an addiction. It's not going to be gone tomorrow. These beliefs are deep-rooted and you can't just yank them out. If the person is moderately interested in conspiracy theories, this is where we can have the most positive influence. You can push a bit, you can joke a bit, but you should still use a light touch. Pressure doesn't work. Nobody likes getting lectures. Don't call people out. Don't ridicule them.
You dick!
You're trying to help people, not defeat them. When somebody senses you're trying to beat them, they'll think whatever they need to prevent you from winning. They might even burrow deeper into the hole. Direct contact is best, DM or text or talk or whatever. I've seen people instantly drop false ideas by just messaging them with a bit of information. This can be a sliding doors moment for them. You could have prevented a friend from getting pilled. If you can nudge someone off the path to believing in Q, you have helped them. You've prevented someone from getting lost, perhaps for years or perhaps for life. Treat these moments as important, but don't lean on them, don't lecture, don't mansplain. Just ask questions. When a claim someone makes seems far-fetched, just ask questions about how it works. You don't have to know if the theory is real or not. Maybe it's a real conspiracy, who knows? Just ask questions. This can help people think something through out loud and maybe arrive at a conclusion on their own. Don't repeat conspiracy theories. Be careful about repeating conspiracy theories because we know that people use familiarity as a shortcut for truth. When we hear something a lot, we tend to believe it's true or somewhat true. So very simple, if you mention conspiracy theories in the wild, frame them as being untrue and avoid repeating their actual claims. We all have cringy beliefs. I once watched The Secret and recommended it to friends.
The secret is the law of attraction. Everything that's coming into your life, you are attracting into your life.
Maybe you don't believe in QAnon, but you believe in other goofy stuff. We all hold some weak-ass theories about politics or health or relationships or whatever, and this awareness can help us approach these interactions with a spirit of sympathy.
Quote by Walt Whitman, it was painted on the wall there. It said, "Be curious, not judgmental." I like that.
And there is something right, not about these folks' facts, but about their lived experience. Q is definitely fake, but something is wrong for people who believe stuff like this, and we should care and we should help. These people are family and friends and colleagues and fellow citizens. I'm not giving up on them. And if the reality is that we mostly can't help these people and they're just gone, I'm okay with being wrong here. We need to endure. All predictions about the future of society should be taken with much more than a grain of salt. But my guess is this conspiracy theory thing isn't going away anytime soon, and it might get worse. Trump losing won't solve this, it'll just stem the rapid deterioration. This is going to take a while. It's better to be prepared to endure for the long run than expecting to vanquish this foe shortly and then getting cynical and pessimistic when things get worse. Ultimately, this stuff will destroy itself because it doesn't work. It fails because it's indifferent to reality, and at some point, reality will get its way. But this can take a very long time, and right now, we need to slow conspiracy theories spread as best we can. Just like a big conspiracy is a janky Jenga tower that inevitably will collapse, so is conspiracy theory culture. At some point, enough blocks will get pulled, and it's all over but the docuseries.